Hey everybody, Tony D and little Joan here with a hot take. And this hot take is about why I think Marxist and Antifa members are very unhappy people. Well, first off, if you've ever seen any of the footage of the Marxist or Antifa, most of them are very unhappy. The only time I see them happy is when they're destroying stuff. And you have to think to yourself, what kind of person do you have to be happy about a burning building or throwing bricks through a window? I think we've all been there as teenagers, when we get in that little bit of destructive phase when you like to break stuff and do some wrong, as it were. But when you come out of that phase, you're not very proud of yourself. And so I don't think that the people who commit these kinds of acts really can feel good, even on a conscious or subconscious level, because doing a lot of damage for people, causing a lot of pain and suffering, that like wears on you. I mean, it wears on your mind, even if you think you're super righteous for doing it. Even if you're just, these guys in Portland, they've been rioting for like 40 days. I mean, think about the stress and the pressure of doing that constantly going out. Yeah, you get all amped up the first couple of days you do it. Man, when you're on day like 35, it's got to start to wear on you. It's got to start to warp you. It's got to be like, you got to start suffering from PTSD. Because you're doing a lot of damage for people. And the natural reaction when you cause pain and suffering to people, speaking of which, Joan, is that it's going to come back on you. Whether it's going to come back at you with the person coming at you, or whether it's just going to come back at you through karma. And I think a lot of this is coming back in the form of karma for these leftists. One of the things that got pointed out to me is the woman who was arrested in Philadelphia she basically firebombed 2 police cars. She's facing like 80 years. And they showed an early picture of her in the newspaper article, and she looked, fairly attractive woman in her early 30s. Then they showed the picture of her actually throwing a Molotov cocktail. And when you see her, Joan, making a point here. When you see her in that picture, she looks like she's gained some weight. She doesn't look like she's taking care of herself. She doesn't look happy. So it's kind of a degradation of the spirit, I think, to adopt this sort of ideology. And it is dark. I mean, it requires you to think that, well, we're all oppressed. Everybody's oppressed. You're oppressed. The patriarchy is oppressing everyone. Trump is oppressing everyone. We're all doomed. We're all doomed. And that kind of negativity spirals, I was in a bad place myself many years ago, and I adopted I think I talked about this before, Joan, the George Costanza method, which was to assume the opposite of all my negative emotions and think nothing but positive. And you can spiral down, but you could also spiral up by thinking positively. It's corny to say, but it really does work because it makes you feel better. And because you feel better, when you're negative and you're constantly being negative, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? But when you're being positive, it's kind of a self-fulfilling, kind of happy prophecy, because you start to feel good, and then you kind of feel good about feeling good, and then something good happens and you notice it suddenly. Whereas if you were in a negative mood, you would sort of twist that as something negative. And I think that's where Antifa and the Marxists are heading. They're heading into this dark void, and emotionally. And that's one of the reasons, if any of you from Antifa or you're a Marxist are listening, you really need to get out, because you need to get out of that mindset for a few weeks so you don't spiral downward into it. Because there's no happy ending for Antifa or the Marxists. I mean, their version of a happy ending is they destroy the United States of America and civilization in general. And that's not going to end in a happy commune for all. That's just not. Even the most ardent believer in Marxism and Antifa's belief have to know that that would just cause absolute anarchy and death upon on a level of destruction not seen in a long time. So I think you know what's coming if you even win, which is pretty depressing in and of itself. So maybe the answer is not to go down that path at all. And in fact, if you look at that path, there's no winning in that path, really. I mean, there's too many people lining up against you. And Trump talks about the silent majority. There really is. My video on the bikers a few weeks back, that really struck a chord with a lot of people. And a lot of people, and these are not necessarily very political people, some of them are, but a lot of them, they're standing up and taking notice of this. I don't think a lot of these people voted before. I don't think they were into politics or Trump. Now they can't be more into it. I'm also seeing videos of former Democrats and moderates and leftists. There's this video going around on Twitter of this girl she's got, no, doggy, don't rub your butt on the carpet. That's no good. Come here. Be positive. Be positive about the butt rubbing. Anyhow, she's got bright green hair, and she kind of talks about how she sort of kind of woke up, realized that, there is a lot of fake news out there, that she had been pulled in to it. I think a lot about the negative news about Trump. And she's kind of unplugged from the matrix. And you could see that she was happy and excited. When I see people talk about the oppression and the patriarchy and all this woke BS, they're so dark. They're just so unhappy. Whereas this girl was like, holy crap, this is really true. I'm very excited. And so I think there is a positive message that is there for you if you want to embrace it. And it's not necessarily about voting for Trump or even getting into politics, but it's about looking at the world and saying to yourself, is this really what it's about? These endless clashes, these endless power struggles. If you really want to be happy, you can be just as happy going out to a ranch somewhere, getting a little parcel of land and just making a little house for yourself and getting a job, or raising flowers, or whatever you could do to make a buck and support yourself. And you don't have to be involved with any of the stuff that's going on in these cities. Just be out in the wilderness, living off the land to some extent, and sort of paying your bills and living in the middle of nowhere, and maybe have a few friends locally and talk to the local people, and it's relaxing. It's relaxing to be outside a city, outside a place that's so intense and full of people. I myself really enjoy a lot of solitude. I find it relaxing. I miss people. I go congregate with people once in a while, but you should be a hermit, but there is a lot of value in that solitude. You get to think, and you could really clear your head when you're so caught up in the politics, especially Marxist politics. It's so, and the Antifa movement, it's just so culty, and everything that's being sucked into it is just so cultish and demanding. It's very tense and stressful. So if you're caught up in this, I'm not saying change your politics necessarily all that much, but maybe it's time to unplug for a couple of weeks and just get away from it all and find your happy place and relax, because I don't think this is going anywhere for you as a person, and I think mentally it's going to break you down. And one day you're going to discover, well, geez, this really wasn't the way to go after all. And I wasted a lot of my time and energy on this ideology that's just so destructive. Or worse, you end up in jail like some of these people are going. So, just food for thought.